Okay, there. Welcome to Talkback Live. Good morning. It's a good Saturday morning right here in the city of Cleveland, and watching Talkback Live, hosted by Gloria Shea. Hello out there, and thank you for tuning in. We've got a very, very special show for you today. It's going to be a very informative show, and we're actually going to talk about it's actually a continuation of our last show concerning the Israeli war against Hamas in Gaza. And there's been an update actually with that. We understand now that Israel has gone into Gaza and upped up their attack on in Gaza there. I want to show a short video about some of the updates of the bombing going on in Gaza. But before I do that, Talkback Live would like to offer its condolences. First, we want to offer condolences to the families of the victims in Lewistown, Maine. That happened about 48 hours ago. And the update there is also that the gunman has been discovered, and the latest update that he is deceased. So, our condolences to the families of the victims of the massacre there that just happened about 48 hours ago in Lewiston, Maine. We certainly want to start off with that. But we got two special guests in the studio, waiting in the wings in the studio to come on and talk about the latest with the Israeli war against Hamas. I want to show a short video of the latest update on that, if I may. Bear with me here just a moment. Okay, there. We wanted to show a short clip just of what's some of the things that are going on with the Israeli war. We do have very, very special guests that are going to be appearing here with us right now. We would like to welcome to Talkback Live Nahida Halabi Gordon and Mr. Amir Mubarak. I'm going to bring them on. Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Talkback Live.
Hi there, how are y'all doing?
Thank you for having.
Awesome. Awesome. It's good to have you here with us today. We certainly want to get your views on what's going on over there in Gaza with the and there's been a surge in the attack of the ground attack there in Gaza, and we want to get your input on that and how you feel. Nahida Halaba Gordon is professor of Amaretto of Statistics and currently serves as on the board of Friends there. She is also moderator of Palestinian Christian Alliance for Peace. Dr. Gordon is the author of the book Palestine is Our Home. She was born in Jerusalem, a lifelong Presbyterian and church elder. Nahida Gordon is a Palestinian American who was driven from her home during the 1948 Palestinian um, from in 1948 in Palestine. She's active in seeking peace and justice for the people of Palestine, Israel. We also have with us Amir Mubarak, who is coming to us, I believe, from South Carolina today.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome to Talkback Live. He has been brought on because he wants to present a younger view from where he sits and his view on what's going on over there with the Israeli Hamas war. And he brings a younger perspective, so to speak, and also what the future may hold for his generation there. So, welcome to Talkback Live, and I do appreciate you coming on today. I wanted to just show that. What did you guys think of that video that I just showed with some of the destruction going on over there in Gaza?
Uh,
Well, who do you want to start?
Well, go ahead, Nita. You could go ahead. Start first.
Well, this is not the first time Israel has done this, and to watch it is very difficult. It's sad. I feel for the innocent civilians actually on both sides, and it just the one thing that I would like to say to people that armed conflict is not going to solve anything, either from either side. This would just keep going on and on and on. Every time you bomb Gaza and kill thousands of people, including many children, wounding children, what would we expect to happen when these children grow up? They're not going to feel very kindly towards the Israeli government. They have been demonized, they have been starved, they have very few options. They get scholarships to go outside to study. They can't go outside to study. And the world has made them into the aggressors when they're actually the victims. And we need to stop this cycle of violence. That's mainly the message I'd like to send. We need to spend time to look at the context, what caused what is going on, and how can we fix it. And fix it with justice for both sides.
Okay, let me ask you then there. So, justice for both sides. Tell me, in your opinion, the two state Palestinian and Israeli state that everyone seems to think will solve this problem. Is that your consensus as well?
Well, it's interesting. When one of the times I've been there, I asked everybody, would you like to have a two-state or a one-state? In fact, what it is right now is one state. Israel controls the entire boundaries of 1948 Palestine, and Israel does not want two states. So for me to talk about let's do two-state solution, it's just a way of putting things off so that Israel can gobble up more and more of the West Bank. And it looks to me right now in Gaza, when they told them to go to the south, and then asked the Egypt if they'd let them into the Sinai Desert, the Egyptian Sinai Desert. I think they have plans to ethnically cleanse the entire Gaza Strip and take over another Nakba, a 2023 Nakba. So Israel is not interested in two states. It's unreasonable to even expect that to happen. What they want is the entire area free of Palestinians. And that is not reasonable. And to me, I would personally, I would rather see one state with equal rights for every citizen in the state. None of this idea that Israel has that there's a nationality. If you're a Jew, you are of the right nationality. You're an Israeli national. If you're a Palestinian, you're not an Israeli national. You're just a citizen of Israel. And your rights are much, much more curbed. You don't have as many rights as the nationals. And so, what I'd like to see is equal treatment to everybody. And for people like me, you know, when I go back to Jaffa, this is where my home was, they have
Yeah.
taken my home and they divided it into 15 apartments. I can't go back. I can't even live in my own home. I've lost my community. And so, justice for someone like me is we need to think of restitution of some sort. Maybe not the house itself, but restitution. At least somebody tell me, I'm sorry I did this to you. Um, Solutions can be found if there are interests on both sides. Solutions can be found. I remember when I was a child in Jaffa, before Israel became a state, one of my best friends was a Jewish girl. We lived together, we got along until all these extra outsiders came in, and these outsiders were brought in by England, and they were Jewish. I feel for them. They were at the first welcomed. Like, for example, let me give you an example. We welcomed the Armenian genocide happened around 2015. Sorry, 1915. They came to Palestine. They became part of us. They became part of Palestine. When these Jews from Europe came in, brought in by the British before and after the Second World War, they came in. They didn't want to blend with us. They came in. They wanted to have a place for themselves. They wanted to take over, and that's exactly what they're doing. And that has to stop. I'll let Amir.
Yeah, so when watching that video, there wasn't any audio, so I really couldn't tell everything that was happening outside of just visual conceptions. But basically, what I could tell is in certain parts of the video saying how they found a Hamas base inside of a building, and I think that that's where they were trying to get at. And like Nahida said or suggested, they could come in there and do something strategically. Unfortunately, they're not really worried about accuracy. They're worried about destruction. And that's a quote from one of the defense ministers in Israel. And I think it's very important to look at the verbiage used when talking about this issue, because calling it an Israeli-Hamas war depicts an image that there are equal sides and they have equal opportunities to defend themselves when there isn't that. And a very wide or broad topic when it comes to this issue is, well, what is a proportionate response to what happened on October 7th when Hamas attacked the Israeli side? And the answer I tell people is I don't know what exactly is a proportionate response. There's no proportionate response to life being taken. But what I can tell you that a proportionate response isn't over 7,000 people being killed, where over half of them are children. And that's not counting the children that are found inside of the rubble. My feed, the video that you've shown us today is just really a small portion. My Instagram and my TikToks are just filled with, unfortunately, dead people from, on ground news outlets or social media news outlets of people finding children or, parents carrying children in plastic bags because they've been dismembered so much. And it kills me to see this every single day. And people on the other side calling for the complete leveling of Gaza. And in regards to the Nakba, for people who don't know, Nakba is the Arabic word for catastrophe, and there was a Nakba in 48. And my grandmother's family was one of the survivors of the Nakba. She was born in 47, and her family decided to stay in Palestine. And one of the few families, and what they're trying to do is get Palestinians to leave Palestine once again. And one of the UN's and United States and UK that they praise Israel for is the fact that they're warning civilians before they come and bomb the area and telling them to seek shelter and go and go towards south, towards Egypt, knowing good and well that there's been a 17-year long blockade on the naval side and on the land side. And not only that, but they told the Gazans that there was a safe passage to the Egyptian border. And as those Palestinians marched south on foot, on mules, donkeys, caravans, buses, ambulances, they bombed them. Right, and we're talking about over 100 people killed in a passage that was supposed to be safe, and whereas over 200 humanitarian trucks are sent into Gaza almost every single day to help them, because they have recently cut off water and food and electricity and all of this. But even before all of this, they were struggling to find clean water. I mean, there are videos circulating out there of the Israeli government or the IDF pouring concrete down water systems. Not only that, but you can even research yourself, look at the calorie count that they've been doing for the Gazan people. There are over 2 million people in the strip of Gaza, and they oh, I just went off. I'm sorry, I must
Having,
have just cut
are you
out.
back? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
But what they do is they calorie count to make sure only a limited amount of food gets into the area, so that way these people are just on the brink of starvation and not allowed to live and live a sustenance life.
Mm-hmm.
And they do this on purpose, and it is a war crime. Cutting off electricity, cutting off water,
Mm-hmm.
dirtying the water wells, cutting off the electricity, and just being able to reach out. And what they recently did, as of yesterday, they completely cut off internet access and very, very, very limited cell service, because what they're about to do is going to be worse than what was done in Japan
Yeah.
with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they
Yeah.
don't want the world to see that, because the Israeli government is losing the PR battle.
Yeah.
Yes, they have the United States and the UK and Germany and some other countries who speak for the people,
Yeah.
but never in the history of this issue have you seen groves of people from around the world band together to show solidarity and support for
Yeah. I agree
Palestinians.
with you.
And despite this conflict and all the
Mm-hmm.
atrocities that are happening, it warms my heart to see people, young, old, white, black, and everywhere in between, band together to show support and solidarity and
Yeah.
speak out against the atrocities that are
Right.
happening to our people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would add to that, you're seeing a lot of support from Jordan, and you're seeing a lot of support from Egypt now
Hmm.
for the Palestinians and what's going on there. So certainly, and you guys have displayed and distributed some very passionate response as to your feelings as to actually what is actually going on over there. We all know that mainstream media is biased and they portray certain images, and I think a lot of us now realize that. So
Well,
so I
it's not even
appreciate.
that. If I may butt in real quick, Joe Biden himself has said Israel's one of the best investments United States ever made, and the reason why they
Yeah.
did that, or the reason why he says that, is the United States wanted a stronghold in the Middle East. They didn't
Right.
want all the Middle Eastern countries to band together and increase their wealth and have some level of community. And what they did
But
was they,
yeah.
Israel, before it became a state, the Jewish people after World War II were looking at
Mhm.
where they could go, and it was between Palestine or somewhere in Africa. And
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
And because Britain was deciding to leave Palestine at that exact moment,
Exactly.
it was a gentleman by the name of Jordan Belfort, where the Jordan Belfort convention in the late 30s, that's what started this whole Zionist movement. And
Exactly.
what you
Exactly.
also have to understand, and this has been very well known, creators on social media, on TikTok and on Instagram, are being paid by the IDF to wear an IDF costume, or like they're in the military, and speak up for Israel, and
Right.
say,
Yeah.
XYZ is happening over there,
Right.
when Becky Lou from Maryland has never experienced any of these
Right.
things. And,
Okay.
and there are a lot of creators who are coming out and saying, I was offered $5,000
Right.
to speak up against Palestine.
Yeah.
And it's
Let me
really
just
sad.
stop you though a moment, Amir.
Yeah, go
Let me
ahead.
just stop you because I
I'd
want to
like
ask
to
a
add
question. I
some
want to get, and
context.
I also want to get a response from Nahida. So hang tight. You're very passionate. I love it, but kind
For
of hang
sure.
tight there for a moment. But I want to ask a question, if I may, because I want to just counter with this question. Is it your opinion, Nahida, that Hamas has murdered some of their own the extremists have murdered some of their own people, specifically some Palestinians, or not? Is that your opinion,
Uh, I
Nahida?
I have not heard of that. I know the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, it does the bidding of Israel and the United States, and they're very hard on Palestinians. They keep the people in the West Bank um, sort of quiet, um,
Mm-hmm.
and they get their support from the United States to do that. Um, I would like to add some context to Hamas. And I don't know if you're
Please.
all aware that the United States keeps talking about they want to have democracy in the Middle East. So in 2006, the Israelis finally allowed an election in both the West Bank and Gaza. And it was monitored by the world, and especially Jimmy Carter. The election was declared fair, and Hamas won 79 seats out of 124. That means they had the right to form a government and elect a prime minister for the parliament. The United States and Europe didn't like Hamas, didn't want Hamas. So even though they talk about they want democracy, what they did as soon as Hamas won, they had an economic blockade of the area. I was traveling in the West Bank at that time. I couldn't use my checks, traveler's checks. It was couldn't use my credit cards. It was very difficult to get by. I had to use whatever cash we had in our pockets to make do. So the United States has worked against Hamas ever since then, instead of working with them. If they had followed their statements that they're for democracy, here is a democratically elected government. If they had worked with it, they would have gotten somewhere. I don't think we would be where we are right now. And
Okay.
after the blockade, when that didn't work, they
Okay.
got fed up to go in there and fight. They gave them weapons, and
Okay.
then they lost, and Gaza won. And so the Palestinians got separated into two groups.
Right.
And all
That
of this is
supposedly, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that was supposedly, I think in '05, Israelis supposedly pulled out after that election, supposedly pulled out of the West Bank and Gaza. But let me, if I may, pose this question to you at this particular time. So the attack that they had at that musical festival almost 2 weeks ago now, do you feel that that's justified? Just so that we balance this out. What about that specific attack though by Hamas?
my personally, I think all war is evil, and I uh, do not condone what they did. But let
Hmm.
me give you a little bit more context here. Most of the people in Gaza are refugees from southern Palestine, all the way up north to Jaffa. They can look across the fence. You know, the city of Sderot that gets a lot of rockets from Hamas? That is built on a village, Najd. It was called Najd. And the Israelis came in and wiped out 49 villages in the Gaza district. Most of those people fled into Gaza. Why did they flee? Because the Israelis chose a few villages and they did a massacre. And what is Hamas doing? Exactly what was done to them. I don't condone what was done to them. I don't condone what the Israelis have done. But I would ask a question. What do you expect when you pen up people in a prison, you cut off their water, their electricity, their chances for life, and you demonize them in Israel, all over the world? I mean, what do you expect these people to do? You'd say, well, where is that Palestinian Gandhi? If they would just do peaceful resistance, they'd be okay. A couple of years before, they did peaceful resistance in Gaza in front of the fence. What did Israel do? They shot 230 Palestinians who were peacefully demonstrating. So when Palestinians demonstrate peacefully, the world doesn't pay attention. It pays attention only when they're violent, which to me is an indictment of the West. They understand violence only, which is really unfortunate. So, and to touch back on something Amir said, Israel represents an armed outpost for the United States against the other countries in the Middle East. And so they support it completely. I voted for Biden last time. I would never vote for him again. Never. When he says he even doubts that so many Palestinians were killed in Gaza, shame on him. With that, I mean, what do you expect? I'm amazed it's only 5,000, with all the people still below the rubble. I think the death count is probably going to reach 10 to 15,000 when all is done and over with.
Yeah.
I think
And
Biden is shameful.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think with and that's why you see so much support now coming from Jordan and coming from Egypt, because the media has created a very dangerous perception, and the U.S. have created a very dangerous perception that Arabs' casualty is not as important as Jewish casualties. So let's be clear about that, and we want the audience to know that that's very prevalent, and it's been going on for years. And so that's why we're having you on Talkback Live today to share your view and let people know that there's two sides to this story. So
Yes,
Amir,
Gloria, what is going on to me is white supremacy. Black and brown and dark-skinned people don't count as much as white people. They decided in 1917 that they want Palestine to give to the Jews. Why? Because they didn't want the Jews to live amongst them. It was their solution to send the Jews to Palestine. So, if you think about, it's a settler colonial project, white supremacy at work.
exactly.
And we Palestinians don't count as much.
Yeah.
They say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Amir, talk to us a moment about being that, because what's your age?
I just turned 22 the other day.
Okay, so you're 22 years old. What's your perspective? And do you have any sort of hope for a brighter future, or will the two states solution, in your opinion, work?
So you have to add some context to this, because this is not just two entities that always existed here that are, coming on some disagreements. Gloria, what I want to ask you and the listeners is, imagine if you had a house that in a neighborhood of an HOA, and the HOA decided to put this random family inside of your house and was like, they now live here and you cannot leave. And these groups of people, this family now takes over your kitchen, the garage, and the living room. So you're stuck to your own bedrooms and maybe a bathroom to share between all of you. And slowly over time, they invite more and more and more of their family, because according to Israel, if you can show even an ounce of Jewish heritage or ancestry, you earn what is called birthright, and they actually pay people to come and settle. Matthew in Brooklyn with 2% Jewish DNA or ancestry can now come over and settle and take over somebody's home that has been there for generations. And Now you're in your home, and this family that was thrusted upon you is now inviting more and more family and friends to come in, and leaving you with less and less space. And eventually, there's no more space left for the other family. So what do? They start killing your family members to make more space for them. Well, after months and years and years and years of your family being killed and beaten and raped and tortured and whatnot, well, Gloria, how would you react? You would feel outraged, and you would be like, I got to defend myself. Well, now after years of abuse, you decide to go out there and defend yourself. And unfortunately, in certain cases, that means to take another life. And now you are looked at as the oppressor when this was your house to begin with. And the HOA goes, well, why can't you guys just live peacefully together? Now, I don't know what the solution may be. I don't know if it's a 2-state, if it's a 1-state. That's not my job. I'm going to be a little biased. I'm going to say I think there should be a 1-state solution, and I think that 1-state should be Palestine. I, in hindsight, knowing how governments work, unfortunately believe that government will be corrupt. Because that's just how it is. Anything that the United States, the UK, unfortunately, they already have too strong of a hold on the Middle East, and I feel like the elites won't let that go. Fortunately, though, on a smaller picture, I feel like a 1-state solution where Palestine is in charge, where in the case that there may be a corrupt government, and that's not to replace a perfect government that's already in place. Israeli's government is already corrupt too. I don't want the viewers to get that mixed up. But I feel like where a Palestinian government that is being led by Palestinian people would stop the killing of Palestinian people. And I condone what Hamas has done. And according to Islam, the killing of non-combatants is a sin. And that's not despite of the religion. That's not my belief despite of the religion. That's because of the religion. The killing of non-combatants, people who don't come against you, it's haram. It's a sin and is not allowed. The killing of yourself under any circumstances is not allowed. Suicide bombings, all of this. These are not Islamic or Muslim actions. And what I tell people in comparison is, you wouldn't look at the KKK and call that a Christian organization just because they do things in the name of God. It's not comparable. So the few minority where there's 2 billion Muslims in the world, if we were all hell bent on killing people and blowing things up, I mean, to be frank, nobody would be alive. But that's not the case, because Islam means peace, and we are peaceful people. But at the same time, to be peaceful doesn't mean to just lay down and take it. That means
Absolutely.
when people come,
I
when
100%
coming for your home
agree.
and your family,
Yeah.
that you won't just sit there and just allow family members and friends in your community to be killed. And also, what Nahida said on the election, yeah, that was the last election happened in Palestine. They haven't allowed another election. And what you were saying in 2005, where they removed troops from Gaza, well, yeah, there aren't people walking around with guns in the neighborhoods, but they still have them in an open air prison, and they have them in a blockade for 17 years. Food, water, imports, exports, airports.
Just let me. I appreciate that, Amir. Let me respond. That was allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly, right. But let me say that.
If I can finish this one thought before I forget.
Real quick, real quick.
Yes, on the attack on October 7th from Hamas on Israel, the first thing that I thought was, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, and there's a reason for that. Israel is one of the richest countries in the world, with one of the best anti-missile defense systems in the world, called the Iron Dome. And in this area, if as Bassem Youssef said, if a dog gets near it, they usually shoot it down. And you're telling me that on a random day, on October 7th, that Hamas, that's been in a blockade for 17 years, got weapons of mass destruction somehow, where the naval ports are watched, the on-land ports are watched, the airports are watched, the people aren't even allowed to leave the Gaza, and
Yeah.
somehow they got weapons of mass destruction to shoot it
Yeah.
upon Israel. And now one of the best and short-range missile anti-defense systems that are in place in the world just happened to be on a day off. They had their whole intelligence systems was shut down, but now all of a sudden they can pinpoint Hamas in certain buildings in Gaza that they can level out, where civilian casualties are just that just sucks. We
Yeah.
were trying to infiltrate and
Yeah.
kill Hamas. It
Very-
doesn't make any sense. And I encourage the viewers, don't take my word, don't take the media word. Go do your own research, because it is
Absolutely.
imperative to understand what is at play here, and it is ethnic cleansing. It is
Yeah.
the genocide of a people. Israeli commercial real estate developers have already had a plan for what they are going to do with a new city of Gaza after they demolish and
Yeah.
level it out and disperse. They are encouraging people to leave Gaza, so that way it's another Nakba where plenty of Palestinian families leave,
Okay.
and,
All right.
then we can do
Okay.
it.
All right, Amir. Thank you so much. I want to. This is a 30-minute show. We're actually running a bit over, so we only got so much time, right? But I want to get Nahida to respond and share some thoughts, some last-minute thoughts with us. But the question is: so is this all for nothing? Um, in your opinion, where do we go from here?
Well, unfortunately, the cycle will continue. The United States will continue to support Israel no matter what. Most of the vetoes in the United Nations Security Council are by the U.S. in support of Israel, and as long as the United States wants to have this bastion in the Middle East called Israel, there won't be a solution. Now, I remember. Let me just give you an example. In way back then, when Eisenhower was president, France and England and Israel attacked Egypt because they nationalized the Suez Canal. Eisenhower told them, "That's enough. Stop," and they stopped. They withdrew, and the fighting stopped. This will all stop if the United States really lives up to what it says it stands for. They can tell Israel to stop. Tell them to stop spreading in the West Bank, stop killing Palestinians. You know, again, people should not believe me, but should do their own research. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Human Rights, OCHA, for the occupied Palestinian territories, on a weekly basis, they publish what the Israelis do to the Palestinians. They evict them from their homes, they demolish their homes, they kill a lot of people in the West Bank, in the Gaza. This is also documented by a lot of human rights groups, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Beit Salam, which is an Israeli human rights group. Just
Yeah.
look these things up and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm pessimistic. I don't think there's going to be a solution unless people really want to solve the problem. The United States has to want to solve the problem. And as
Yeah.
long as the US does not want to support them, fix the problem, nothing will happen. It just will continue the cycle of violence. Palestinians aren't going anywhere. They are staying put. They're multiplying, and that's a problem for Israel.
You know, let me say this, because we're going to wind up the show, and I appreciate both of you coming on so much. This has been so enlightening and refreshing, in my opinion. But let me state, if I may, my how kind of sort of my own personal opinion here, because the United States and their dealings in other countries and throwing a rock and hiding their hand, okay, is no secret. Now, we're pretty much all of us are aware, especially the African American community. Let me be very clear. We're aware of how, for years and for decades, for decades, for hundreds of years, the United States have thrown rocks and virtually hit their hands. We're aware of how I'm well aware of the underlying current that has been consistent for hundreds of years to depress and hold down people of color. Very much aware of that. And I feel a lot like you do, Nihita. I'm very pessimistic about the future, as far as if it's really as far as the United States really taking a proper stand. It's unpopular for Biden to say opposite of what he's been saying. It's very unpopular. It's unpopular here. It's unpopular in Europe. Okay. So what do we expect him to say? I don't look for the United States to become a leader and really come in and negotiate equally on both sides. The United States has never done that. And we've never done that. So I agree with both of you, and I appreciate so much how passionate you are about expressing truth and knowledge as to what's really have been going on over there for years. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that getting the word out, having media that's not biased share the information as to what's actually going on there is the only thing that we have that will share truth so that people are aware and they can make intelligent decisions based on truth. So I totally agree with you, and I thank you so much for coming on to Talk Back Live. This has been just a great show for me, and I hope it has been for you as well there. I would like to, though, before we close out the show, Iran. What's your concern with Iran getting in on this, Nihita? And then actually, I'm going to ask Amir because I'm going to give Nihita the last word. Amir's pretty long-winded, so I want you to do it quickly for me, Amir. Okay?
I will.
Give us thoughts on that.
I'll be honest. I don't know much about Iran. I haven't looked too much into that situation. I'm not very well educated on that topic, and I don't want to speak out of ignorance, and I don't want to speak out of turn as well and provide false information. So what I can say about that, though, is the United States has lied about Syria, has lied about Lebanon, has lied about Afghanistan, has lied about Yemen, has lied about so many different things that have happened in the Middle East, and currently lying about Palestine. It's very hard to believe any source of information, what is supposed to be unbiased information and just a report of what's going on is excuse my language, a half-assed report of just their own opinion, not actual facts. So I can't really speak about that.
Okay, let's go to Nahida. Do you have any fear that Iran will get involved with this more?
I think Iran is not going to get involved. I think if they do, it's only through their proxies. Now, no government really is all that innocent, and Iran is not all that innocent. However, on the whole, what the United States has been doing to Iran all these years, especially beginning with the downfall of the Shah, and before that, again, they talk about democracy. Iran had an election. They elected Mossadegh, and he thought it was unfair what was going on with the oil production. He wanted to nationalize the oil. The United States doesn't like that because income from the oil companies would stop. So what did they do? They go in and make sure that there is an uprising against Mossadegh, and they install the Shah. So again, the United States goes in and destroys countries. So there's a bad feeling by the Iranians against the Americans, very understandable. And the United States doesn't like any country in the Middle East that stands up to them. Syria, Lebanon, Libya. Look what they did to Libya. They convinced Gaddafi to give up his nuclear armaments. As soon as he did, they went in there and destroyed him. They
I wanted
destroyed.
to talk about Gaddafi, but we don't have time. I want to talk about that era that he lived in and how it was atrocious how they treated him.
Yes, they've destroyed any country that stands in their way.
In
And
Africa as well. Any leaders that stand for freedom and democracy. It's how convenient that they die of a heart attack or of
Yeah,
mysterious origins soon after they come to power. So
exactly.
there are people that are at play here that we don't have names or faces to put them to, and it's hard to think of a solution when you know that there's so little that you can do. It's almost disheartening, but I do have optimism. I'm not much of a pessimistic. I like to think that my generation will not stand for this, and we will be the generation that does make change for the better.
I hope
Um,
so. I hope so.
Especially due to social media and the branches of accessibility that we have to other people around the world. And we get to do, on this little device right here, we get to do whatever, and we have access to the entire world through that entire device. So
Yeah,
I do have optimism for our future and for Palestine and for our generation.
So,
that's good to hear.
Lori,
That's
I
good
want
to
to
hear.
thank you for doing this. I
Yes,
think
thank
it's
you.
excellent opportunity to speak out, and all the power to you.
Well, thank you for appearing with us on Talkback. Like I said, it was very enlightening and very passionate. I love passionate shows. Don't get me wrong, guys. I love it. I love passionate shows because this we're living in a day and age where there's so many distractions now to take our mind off of what is really going on in
Hmm.
the world.
Hmm.
So many distractions, and social media is one of those
Hmm.
distractions. You know, I
Yeah,
think too. So there's a
there's
good and
a
a bad
silver lining.
side to the
Yeah.
to social media today. But we need more shows like this, and it was my pleasure to present a platform for you guys today to come on to Talk Back Live. It's just a 30-minute show, but we've expanded it today. Looks like we've gone over a bit, but that's okay. That's all right. We're going to do more. We're going to share more good information here at Talkback Live. So it was my pleasure. Thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
please join me, my audience, in thanking Nahida Halaby Gordon and Amir Bomaric uh, for coming on to Talkback Live today.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay,
And I'm
guys. If you
also
just
posting
mhm,
live information on my social medias on my Instagram. If
okay,
any of your viewers want to come and follow me on there, it's just Amir Mubarak, or sorry, Amir Mob Official, and then
okay,
underscore. So
okay.
if anybody wants to like up to date, almost every single day, I'm posting stuff that's happening in Gaza. So anybody that wants to keep up to date with that, feel free to follow me.
And Anita, is there anything you'd like to share with the viewers out there about your alliance? Because you are a member of the Palestinian Christian Alliance. Anything you'd like
Yes,
to share?
we're a group of Palestinians from really all over the United States, and we work for advocacy. We mostly are concentrating on reaching to people through the churches, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm also on the board of Friends of Sabil North America. This is a group of Christians in Jerusalem that are having a hard time, uh, you know, continuing to exist. Israel hides this, but it gives Muslims a very hard time. It does the same thing to Christians. They're very careful with doing things to Christians because they don't want to get the West upset. But they destroy things in churches in the old city. They'll spit at priests.
They spit at people all the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so uh, and I if somebody wants a very short, very heavily documented history of the context of Palestine in my book, uh, there is about a 12-page history of what happened, and then there is a little piece about each of the districts of Palestine, what the Israelis have done during 47, 48. It's really
And
upsetting.
how can the audience pick up the book?
You can find it on Amazon, or they can reach me. I can provide it to them. There is a website called Palestine books. They can buy it from there as well, or from Amazon, either one.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here at Talkback Live. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And if you sit tight there for just a moment, I appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Talkback Live. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Be sure and catch us again on our next show. In about 2 weeks, we'll have another exciting guest for you here at Talkback Live. It's been my pleasure to bring the show to you today. Don't forget, go to our YouTube page. It's Talkback with Gloria Shea. Subscribe and like our page. Be sure you can also catch us on our Facebook page, which is Talkback, a thought-provoking talk format Facebook page. Be sure to go there, follow the page, and there that way you can keep up with all of you can review some of our older shows, and of course you can catch the upcoming shows. Thank you for tuning in to Talkback Live. Until next time, America.